Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are going to be going through every Championship manager and ranking them, but not on their managerial ability. We're going to save that for the end of the season, and instead in today's video we're going to be ranking each Championship manager on whether or not I think they get into your current first 11. So the iteration of your manager that we're going to be taking into consideration is your manager in the peak of their powers during their playing career. So at their real prime, do they get into your current team? So these right here are the teams that we're going to be putting all of the managers into. So it's either doesn't make the 25-man squad, they're in the squad, there's sort of a backup option, they're on the bench, they're in the first 11, or they are the first name on the team sheet. So they are levels above everyone currently in the playing squad. Here are all the managers that we're going to be taking into consideration. Like I say, I'm going to be ranking them based on these managers in their playing days prime. And yeah, without any further ado, let's jump into this one. I think we got quite a decent variation of managers here, if I'm being honest. We may as well sort of work our way up the list first of all. So let's go for someone who I don't think makes it in to the current 25-man squad. Steve Cooper, one of the best managers in the league at the moment, but in terms of his playing days, he's not getting anywhere near this Forest side, is he? Retired fairly young. I think only had about 4 or so years as a professional footballer. Played his football in Wales and then went ahead and pursued a coaching career. So yeah, don't think many people have too many complaints about that one. In terms of in the squad, I think that Nathan Jones might potentially get into that Luton squad. I don't think he gets anywhere near the first 11 or is on the bench or anything like that, but a lot of years at Yeovil, you know, maybe sort of like a backup left back or something like that. Played a lot of his career in the Football League but never quite made it in the Championship. On the bench, do you know what? Even though he didn't play in the Championship, I think Ryan Lowe potentially could be someone who makes it onto Preston's bench. In terms of in his prime, he had some really good goal scoring seasons in League One, and typically that's the sort of market that we like to ship around. So if we'd have picked up like a 26-year-old Ryan Lowe back in the day, I could see him maybe getting onto our bench these days, if I'm being honest. In terms of a first 11 player, Steve Morrison, I think, gets into the first 11 at Cardiff. Maybe not the first name on the team sheet, although did have some years in the Premier League, to be fair to him, but really good striker, you know, throughout the Football League, throughout his career. Cardiff have a few decent options up front, but I think that Steve Morrison in his prime has no issues getting into that current Cardiff setup. I don't think anyone's going to have all too many complaints about that one. In terms of first name on the team sheet, Wayne Rooney, straight in there. I think that, yeah, it's not too outrageous of a statement to say that had this Derby setup this season had a prime Wayne Rooney playing up front for them, I don't think they'd have struggled at all with survival, because what's been their issue has been consistently hitting the back of the net. You know, they've averaged less than a goal per game this season. So yeah, a prime Wayne Rooney in their setup this season and they fly up the league. Neil Critchley, another one similar to Steve Cooper, retired fairly young as a player. I think he only made a handful of professional appearances before he went into coaching, and for that basis and with the current setup that Blackpool have, he's not getting anywhere near that team. So it doesn't make the 25-man squad for Neil Critchley, I'm afraid. For a first name on the team sheet, I'm still, you know, questionable over his managerial skills and things like that because of his track record. But in terms of a player, yeah, Paul Ince is definitely the first name on the team sheet in that current Reading setup. I don't really know where to place Marco Silva, to be honest, because Fulham have, you know, the best squad in the league, so it's the hardest one to get into theoretically. I can't have ever claimed to have watched Marco Silva play. He spent the majority of his career playing in the Portuguese second division, but did make a handful of appearances in the Portuguese top league as well. Do you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he was a fullback and say that maybe he makes it into the squad as maybe a backup. Swansea's manager, Russell Martin, I think has no problems whatsoever with walking into their first 11. And there's an argument, to be honest, that he could be first name on the team sheet for them with the way they've defended so far this season. Russell Martin would have no qualms whatsoever with walking into that team. Spent a lot of his career in the Football League, but also had 3 or 4 seasons in the Premier League with Norwich. Absolute legend with them. And yeah, no problems at all walking into that first 11. Michael O'Neill at Stoke is quite an interesting one because he floated around quite a bit throughout his career. Did make a handful of appearances in the Premier League, then played some of his football in Ireland, had some football in Scotland as well, and then throughout the Football League in England. Also capped over 30 times by Northern Ireland as well. Between first 11 and on the bench for O'Neill, if I'm being honest, can't claim to have been a massive watcher of him, so I say on the bench for now, but I might move him up to that first 11. Played as a midfielder. Trying to think who Stoke have got in those positions at the moment. I'll leave him for on the bench now because there is a bit of competition. Carlos Corbin goes into the tier of doesn't make the 25-man squad. Another manager similar to Critchley and Cooper, who retired from his playing career at a really young age, 23, having not made a professional appearance to go ahead and pursue a role in coaching. Tony Mowbray played for Middlesbrough, Celtic and Ipswich throughout his playing days, centre half. I think he gets into Blackburn's starting 11. Not sure if he'd be the first name on the team sheet, but I definitely think he gets into that setup. Steve Bruce in this West Brom side, definitely first name on the team sheet. Everything that he won with Manchester United. Yeah, people have the, maybe differing opinions on Steve Bruce as a manager, but as a player, no doubt in his first name on the team sheet there. Christy Wilde is quite an interesting one. Moved around loads throughout his career. Started out at Sheffield United and after that I think played for like 12 other clubs or something like that. A lot of his football played in the second and third divisions as well. Definitely makes it into the 25-man squad at Borough, but he's got quite a bit of competition in those areas. Between on the bench and in the squad, I think I'm just going to say in the squad for Christy Wilde in this Borough setup. Grant McCann at Peterborough, not actually all too long retired. Only retired around about 2015, obviously. Peterborough fans watching this will be able to comment on Grant McCann's playing days and stuff like that. Good, solid championship player, and do you know what? In this current Peterborough setup, I think he gets into that first 11, no questions asked. Ross Bargy at Barnsley, another one who just doesn't make the 25-man squad, went into coaching really young and just didn't have that professional playing career like a lot of these players and managers in that bottom category. In terms of a first name on the team sheet, I think Scotty Parker. Don't get me wrong, Bournemouth have some very talented players in that squad right there, but Scott Parker, back in his heyday, was a really good Premier League player. Played for England and stuff like that. No doubt in my mind that he'd be the first name on the team sheet within that setup there. Paul Heckingbottom, I'd say he gets in the squad at Sheffield United. Does he get on the bench? Not sure. Sort of bounced around League One and the Championship throughout his career, didn't he? Maybe he gets on the verge of getting on the bench, but Sheffield United also have a really talented squad. So I'm going to leave him in the squad for the time being, I think. Mark Warburton didn't really have that professional playing career. Played a lot of his playing days in non-league football, and QPR with their current setup, I think he doesn't make it into their 25-man squad. Shota Valades at Hull City. To be honest, I have to admit that before I made this video and I did some of the research for it, I didn't actually realise just how good his playing career actually was, but it's absolutely fantastic. Like over 350 career goals, played for some top clubs around Europe as well, Ajax, Rangers, stuff like that. Won a bunch as a player, and yeah, undoubtedly he'd be the first name on the team sheet in that current Hull setup. Gary Rowett, I think, would be a quality player for Millwall at the moment. Good defender, played a lot of his football in the Premier League as well. Undoubtedly first 11, maybe even a shout for first name on the team sheet, but first 11 without a doubt for Gary Rowett in at that Millwall setup. And he's another manager, to be fair, who hasn't been all too long retired. I think call it a day in terms of his playing career, around about 2007 or something like that. So yeah, another one that's fairly fresh out of the game and went straight into management after that. We've got a few other quite younger ones here as well. Lee Bowyer for Birmingham. I think I'm going to have to say first name on the team sheet. In that current Birmingham squad especially, no one's touching Lee Bowyer at his peak, are they? Spent the vast majority of his career in the Premier League. Obviously won the League Cup with Birmingham as well, which was absolutely massive for them. And yeah, Lee Bowyer was, cracking midfielder. And yeah, Birmingham in their current state, I don't think have anyone who comes close to matching him in terms of that ability. Nigel Payson throughout his playing career played for Shrewsbury, Sheffield Wednesday and Middlesbrough. I can't have claimed to have ever watched him play, but by the type of manager that he is, I can only imagine what sort of defender he was back in the day as well. And the rate that Bristol City have conceded goals this season, I think they probably need someone in their first 11 like Nigel Payson, to be honest. But really good playing career, tons of matches under his belt throughout his playing days there, and no questions whatsoever, he walks into that first 11, doesn't he? And then to finish it off with Mark Robbins at Coventry. Another manager who, to be fair, I didn't know all too much about their playing days before I went ahead and did the research for this video. And to be fair, he could definitely play back in the day. Scored over 100 goals as a player, came up as a youngster at at Manchester United, won quite a bit with them in his early years as well. Some success in Europe as well as an FA Cup. After that, made his move over to Norwich, then played for Leicester, and then bounced around a little bit after that. But in Coventry's current setup, I think Robbins would probably be the first name on the team sheet, wouldn't he? Could you imagine a strike partnership of him and Gyökeres, or maybe him and Matty Godden next to each other? I think them two would be pretty decent, to be honest. But these are the categories that I've gone ahead and put each of the managers into. If I had to shuffle it round, maybe I'd give Christy Wilde the benefit of the doubt, and I'd say that he'd sneak onto the bench. That sort of ties it up a little bit more for symmetry. But I think that right there is what I'm thinking in terms of a managerial ranking, if we're basing it off how good they were as players and whether or not they'd actually get into your current setup. Let me know down below, would you take your manager in his prime in your current side? I think this one could be quite a fun one in the comments down below. But there we have it, guys, that will wrap it up for today's video. This one just for a little bit of fun really, as we are now heading into this international break. We'll have a couple of sort of wacky videos coming out, as well as some big sort of previews for the rest of the season and after the international break. But as always, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But for that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.